Mr. Oxner?
Yeah. Two things. We have to stop making the same mistakes. One of my opponents here, who's not here again, was at an event and promised that I'm going to go to Congress and bring you back to Ponciana Parkway. We have no money. We need to stop the Sunrail before it gets out of hand. We still have opportunity to save the money, and we need to fight from Congress and fight locally to stop the spending before it's too late.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, sir?
I wanted to bring it up and get a good debate on it. Thank you for caring, and just remember when you're in Congress. Thank you. Yes,
thank you so much. We're about halfway through. If you all want to take a 30-second stretch your legs, if the restrooms are out in the lobby. If you're exiting the auditorium, they're to your left. Do you gentlemen need more water? You doing okay?
Does everybody have an exit?
That's a good question, Julius. Does everybody have an exit poll? If you need one, one of our ushers will bring you one. You'll also find them out in the lobby. Are y'all having a good time so far? Are you learning something that you didn't know before? Okay. Okay, let's move on. Do I have a question? Yes. We have a technical issue. He's going to recheck the mic. Okay, if I have a question from the audience on my right, if you'll state your name.
Hello, my name is James Doyle, and my question is, given that earmarks represent such a small part of the budget, do you support a ban on earmarks? And secondly, if you do, how do you intend on getting money back to the district to reinvest in the community?
Okay, this question round will start with Mr. Oxner, then Mr. Long, Mr. Nieves, and Mr. Melendez. Mr. Oxner.
Yeah, I do support the end of earmarks. I know it's low-hanging fruit, but at Congress, we even refuse to go after the low-hanging fruit because, you know, we talk about we can't balance the budget because it's always Medicare and Social Security, so the other stuff we can't even touch. So I would earmarks among a lot of other low-hanging fruit. Again, you know, we're out of money and we need to do just what's necessary. We don't need to be bringing back special projects to the community, even though, you know, the community is here. That's what the local politicians are for, the local taxes. We need to stop sending our taxes to California, and trust me, they get more earmarks than we do, so if we ban the earmarks, Central Florida will win.
Thank you, Mr. Long.
Yeah, you know, they're unconstitutional clearly, and for one state to be robbing from another state is exactly the opposite of what the founders intended, that we're supposed to be united and have a very limited federal government. I will say this, it's interesting to me that every time we talk about spending, we have a lot of these debates, and Julius starts talking about consolidating or cutting in the Defense Department. I'm not saying you can't do that, but we got trillions of dollars of debt just in 1 year. I mean, obviously you have to reform your entitlement programs, but at least that's a legitimate function of government, is to keep us safe. I mean, getting rid of things like the Department of Education, which isn't working at all, costing $60 billion a year, not accomplishing anything for this country. You're looking at EPA, Department of Energy. If they can't get us off our dependence on foreign oil, which is what their assignment was in the 70s, why are they still there? I mean, we've got subsidies and welfare programs and National Endowment of Arts, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, I wouldn't start with the Defense Department first. I'd go after things that are going to save actually trillions and hundreds of billions, and things that shouldn't even be there to begin with, and things that aren't working. And then I'd find my way, .50, to look at the Defense Department and the intelligence agencies, which are at least a legitimate purpose of government to keep us safe. So I have a big difference in that area. We wrote a book of specific solutions that'll save us trillions of dollars. Obviously, Obamacare needs to be repealed. And obviously, if we have an energy plan that makes sense, that'll bring in hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars and keep it here in the country each year. So I think we need to start thinking in terms of large cuts to balance the budget.
Thank you. Mr. Nieves.
Honestly, the budget is about spending wisely, but it's also about raising revenue at the top line. And as far as bringing investments back to the community, one of the things that I like to do is focus on agriculture. And as it ties in to biofuels as a way to fuel our nation. Right now, renewable energy is being developed all around the United States, yet the Southeast is getting just a fraction of the money that is being invested in some of this research. The agricultural industry is a big industry for Florida, It has been one that has been strong and can be stronger. It's one that can be expanded from the fields into hydroponic production and actually create jobs for not just immigrants, as you would think, but actually men, women, young and old, within controlled environments. So, you know, the goal for me in that area is to go find funding for Florida based on industry opportunities, and no, I don't believe in earmarks.
Thank you. Mr. Melendez.
Well, to answer your question directly before I respond to Mr. Long's comments, yes, I would ban an earmark. You know, I'll do a ban on earmarks, kind of like what I mentioned before. You have to have a funding formula. For instance, in Central Florida, we have a high veteran population. So there's no need for an earmark to create a hospital or a VA hospital in Lake Nona. The reason why we have a VA hospital in Lake Nona is because there are so many veterans of foreign wars that are living in Central Florida. So it shouldn't be a special earmark that Congressman Melendez is so powerful that he's able to bring it back. It should be a neutral, unbiased situation where there's a genuine need that the federal government has a responsibility to take care of. We have a responsibility to take care of our veterans after they come back from war, and I'm going to make sure that occurs. But I'm not going to sit there and say, I live in Illinois, therefore I'm going to give a VA hospital in Illinois. I'm going to get the VA hospital where the funding formula justifies the numbers, and I'm going to always stick to that because that is how we get into the mess that we're in from a financial reason. And to address Mr. Long's concerns, of course, I'm for eliminating the Department of Defense and some of these other issues, but we don't want to get into a partisan fight. I'm fighting against Alan Grayson. I got to go against Alan Grayson and not just say, I'm going to eliminate all the Democrat-leaning inefficiencies that exist in government. There are inefficiencies in the Department of Defense, and I'll go after it. Absolutely. When I was in Iraq, we had 2 scanners. I went to eat lunch. One scanner, another scanner. The Department of Defense has too much money. And if you don't think it is, then maybe you don't understand the Department of Defense and appropriations that exist. We have to eliminate gun funding that does not matter, that is redundant, that is overlapping, and that is obsolete. And I will fight to take away money that is inappropriate no matter where it is.
Thank you. Do I have another question on my left? Please state your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Hogle, and I learned many years ago that politics is supposed to be the art of the possible, make things happen. Well, going to Washington, you have 2 responsibilities. 1, put forth your positions and work for them, and 2, there are 537 elected officials in Washington, President, Vice President, Congress, and representatives in the Senate, who have to responsibly run the government. And what this responsibility for running the government seems to have been replaced by a hateful theater of the absurd, kick the other guys while they're down attitude. It happened when the House changed leadership, with the Senate and the House are both on a kick the other guys while they're down. What will you do to restore the art of the possible?
That's a fascinating question. Do you feel up to the challenge? We'll start the round with Mr. Long, and then Mr. Nieves, Mr. Melendez, and Mr. Oxner. How do you bring statesmanship back to D.C.?
That's a great question. And I think a lot of these people that have been there so long, I mean, like Reagan said, it's concentrated power is always the enemy of liberty. We need to get rid of all of these people who have been there 20 and 30 years, both parties. I believe that any fresh faces, new ideas, they've had their chance and they've failed miserably. And that's just the end of the story. So I will be actively working to get new fresh faces in there with good ideas, people that get things done. And I'll say this, what I think the Republicans do not do, they're always attacking what the Democrats are failing to do or doing. You need to get consensus of positive ideas like the fair tax and bring people together. People that are poor don't want to hear less government and less taxes because they're not paying taxes. They want to hear, do you have a plan for me? Yes, we have a plan. It's not keeping you dependent on government. We have a plan for you to bring in every employer, every job creator in the world up in your neighborhood to get you employed, get you going, get you able to take care of your family. But you either have problem solvers, you have problem creators. And there's no substitute for good ideas that are specific, that people understand and move the country forward. We either have those or we don't have those. So my job, the way I see it, is to bring forth very specific ideas that make sense and start building coalitions with the Tea Party Coalition, the Michelle Bachmans, the Fair Tax Coalition in Congress. And that's where I plan to channel my energies, building consensus, selling it to the American people, moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Nieves.
It It is something that is eating away at our country. And obviously, it bothers people, it bothers me. I cannot believe when I hear a congressman won't show up for a session to make some kind of point when they represent hundreds of thousands of people. Just one would love to have the opportunity to be there. Disrespect for the president, not the person, but the seat. I mean, we have laws, moral responsibility, not just in government, but also in the financial systems. And I believe that, as I mentioned before, when the question was asked, who would I support for Speaker of the House? I believe that leadership starts at the very top. It's one of the shortcomings of President Obama. You know, he hasn't been a great leader. We need true leadership. We're ready for it. And I believe you have to do it by example. I have been in the private sector all my life. I behave professionally, and that's exactly how I will behave. I've been married for 25 years. I respect my wife. I have not lost respect for one day. And when I go to Washington, I'll respect everyone, and I will seek to have convergent conversations. I want to focus on our similarities and not our differences. And I think that can get us there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Melendez.
That is an excellent question, and I have experience in this arena. I still have the arrows in the back of my back. You know, Donna Sykes lives in Osceola County. I got school board members suing each other, ethics violations. I got them, they're going at it. And yet you never see my name in the Orlando Sentinel getting down in the mud. And yet you look at our school district from a functionality standpoint, not a personality standpoint. We've always balanced our budgets. None of our schools have been cut, which in Orange County and Seminole County, they've had to cut a few of them. They had to increase taxes. That hasn't occurred. So in other words, I was able to take the personality differences aside. And trust me, as somebody running for Congress, I would love to have my name in lights and start calling people out. But I didn't, because that isn't what the people elected me to do. My job was to stay focused on keeping that books balanced, to be able to make sure our students were learning. We showed academic gains, and that's the same experience that I'm going to take with me to the federal government. I'm not naive to that. I know what it's like. And the thing is, on the school board, I have to go home and see them. You know, at least in the federal government, when you go home to Illinois, I go home to Florida, and so we don't have to live with each other every single day. So I actually have experience with seeing the political rhetoric, the political grandstanding right in front of me, right next to me, and I was able to kind of put that aside and stay focused on my mission on educating those children and making sure the books were balanced without any increases in taxes, without decreases in services, and with our academic performance always going up higher. So that is something that I will bring to me the federal government with experience.
Thank you. Mr. Oxner.
Yeah, I think the problem is that the leadership of the Republican Party, leadership of the Democrat Party, that they're fighting each other. We have gridlock. Like I said, John Boehner's going to hate me a lot more than Nancy Pelosi because I need to fight our own party. I'm used to that. I turned around a large manufacturing company. I didn't have to fight our competitors. I had to fight within our own manufacturing company because I came in to do things that had never been done and that were impossible. I did the impossible. I knew how to do that. Today I work for one of the largest companies in the world, and I say it's like working for the federal government because everything's a bureaucracy. And I know how to fight bureaucracies. There's a method of negotiation which no is not an answer. We cannot go with the answer of no. There's ways to work around things. I'm the only one here that has the experience at working at a global economic level that knows how to get things done, and I'm the one that's willing to fight our leadership to get things done.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up?
We talk about leadership and personal hatred and stuff. I'm always prompted to remember someone's name has been mentioned here, Ronald Reagan. One of his best drinking buddies was a guy named Tip O'Neill, the Democratic Speaker of the House at the time. Or can you imagine John Boehner and, who's her name, Nancy Pelosi, hosting a garden party at the same place? It should happen.
Do you have a follow-up question?
But no.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the commentary. those are wonderful visuals.
I teach for a living. Visuals are my aim.
Okay, do we have another question on my right?
Hi.
Please state your name.
My name is Jamie Bew, and I'm proud to be a Catholic
Into the mic.
Christian.
I can barely hear you. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Jamie Bew. I'm proud to be a Catholic Christian, and I take great offense when we're told by the federal government that these are the rules by which you will worship not have freedom of religion.